Let's welcome architect Roshni Udyavar, the CEO of RUA Ecospace, an architect expert in environmental design, practice and education. Worked in rural and urban remediation projects in areas of watershed management, rainwater harvesting, passive solar architecture, wastewater treatment, efficient and eco-friendly building materials, and ecological landscape design. She has worked locally and internationally in the field of environmental research, pedagogy, and implementation since 1997. She has lectured extensively and has expertise in curriculum development, appraisal, training of resource person, research and development. Today, Roshni will be presenting a talk on strategies for monsoon resilient building. So let's welcome Roshni.
Okay, I'd like to start with this picture of Dubai, which is in 2024, just a few days ago. One of the most advanced cities as far as building and infrastructure is concerned, but they did not know what hit them, when these torrential rains happened just two days ago. And it is a lot to do with the buildings and the infrastructure, which was not made for so much torrential rains, and this is what is happening in many parts of the world. And we have seen this happening in July 2005 in Mumbai, in 2019 again in Mumbai, and again in different parts of India as well, like in Chennai and so on. And most of the cities are not prepared for the monsoons. And even the places that they are constructed in includes wetlands and so on, and there is a lot of water logging and a lot of damage. It is estimated that in India that this monsoon preparedness not being there, or many other similar disasters related to this, including floods and cyclonic events, they have increased over the past 30 years. And it is especially India is more vulnerable country because of the high population density, the unplanned development, and urbanization, as well as the socio-economic conditions. So the economic losses and also the loss of lives is fairly high in number when we look at these kind of events. So in Dubai, hardly it must have affected a few people, but in India, it certainly impacts a lot more people. So when we talk about building materials and strategies for monsoon resilience specifically, we are lucky we have a monsoon which comes exactly for 4 months, unlike in different parts of the world where rains are not exactly as predictable. But even then, there are things that are changing. So when we say preparedness, we mean that we have to be prepared for the increasing intensities of precipitation. Like what is happening is that rainfall, which is meant for the whole year or more than a year, is falling within a few hours. That's the intensity of precipitation. And along with that, other extreme weather conditions such as cyclones, floods, storm surges, which are all supposed to be expected because of the change in the climate that we are observing all over the world. When it comes to buildings, I think the most important elements are the building envelope materials, which my colleagues have already pointed out over here, the speakers. And I would not dwell into a lot of detail, but obviously the materials have to be such that they have to be able to withstand and after the monsoon also be able to retain their properties. For example, we put high albedo paints, but post the monsoon, they all become black, for example, and many other materials like somebody spoke about fungus formation, which is also a cause of indoor indoor environment quality concern. So definitely the building envelope materials, including the windows, to be able to withstand the storms and the cyclones and so on, have to be there. So this is a major area that we need to be prepared for. Then there are aspects like speedy drainage of water from buildings and sites. So whether it is the roof or whether it is the surface or the surrounding site, there has to be a system by which the water quickly drains off, or there is a method by which this happens. So that has to be planned. And similarly, when we look at larger scope of semi-urban areas, things like green belts, afforestation using natural buffers, or even mangroves or wetlands, they all add to the kind of increase in resilience of areas. When it comes to rural areas, the major issue is landslides, which we have seen over the past few years in Maharashtra. So therefore, afforestation and using various kinds of watershed management techniques, such as check dams and small contour trenches, etc. These are very, very important. Urban areas, of course, reducing the hardscape. So we keep saying that there is too much concretization in a city like Mumbai, for example, where we are seeing more and more redevelopment. Whatever space was around smaller houses is now disappearing and giving way to parking lots and more of concretized surfaces. So reducing the hardscapes, and now more of the countries are looking at the concept called sponge cities and blue green infrastructure. So things like swales, holding ponds, natural barriers, wetlands, these are the things to be introduced, so that we are able to take the onslaught of the monsoon, especially when the intensity is very high. So I'll try to show a few examples of this. I just wanted to briefly talk about. I was asked a few years ago about why Mumbai keeps flooding. And the reason, of course, is that we are using the storm water which goes out into the sea. And whenever there's a high tide, it also causes a problem. But apart from that, the increase in concretization means that the runoff coefficient changes from zero 0.9 or from zero 0.5, which is softscapes, to zero 0.1, which means so much more water is running off. And most of our stormwater systems are not designed for this. And there is also a corresponding increase in the rainfall intensity, which also means that more and more susceptibility to such events. Therefore, we have to take into consideration the creation of softscapes, creation of rainwater harvesting pits, recharge pits, and so on, which will take care of this kind of situation. Another idea is, how to have more and more rooftop gardens. Of course, the concern is that it might come inside the building, the water might percolate and cause damage. But of course, it is properly done using proper waterproofing. This is not an issue. In fact, in many countries, it has been identified now that this is a sort of a holding. It delays the time span by which water goes out into the streets and into the stormwater drains. So a lot of buildings are also looking at rooftop gardens and the spaces for reducing apart from the, of course, stormwater, they have other benefits like increase in biodiversity and reducing the urban heat island effect. Rainwater harvesting. This is one of the first cases that we had done in the city of Dombivli. People don't have water, and we provided water, and at the same time avoided the whole issue of flooding that was happening over there. This is at a city level. We have the Mahim Nature Park, which has 37 acres of land, and this particular pond, which was built, holds about 1 lakh liters of water. So imagine this much amount of water going into the storm water or the Meechi River is protected, and this water provides for the irrigation of the entire park throughout the year. Then taking care of urban rivers. This is a major issue because rivers have their natural bends. We worked on the Isa River restoration several years ago, in which some of the key things that we talked about. This is how the river looks at the end of it. It becomes like a nala. But the key thing that we identified is to protect the river in the upstream area. So you can see this natural 90-degree bend. This is where all the flooding happens, and almost all the buildings in this area get submerged. So these points that you see, these are the places where we have proposed interventions like construction of check dams, prevention of forest fires, and checking the soil erosion within the national park, and construction of baffle walls that should, reduce the speed in which the water flows. It's a kind of rainwater harvesting system itself. At the planning stage, of course, we need to look at something called land suitability analysis, and therefore looking at a macro level of planning with the hydrology and geology of the land in order to see that the places which are likely to be flooded are not occupied by habitable spaces. Land use plays a major role. The change in land use causes a lot of issues with respect to flood. And just want to share this one very interesting study by Mary Cardenaso from Baltimore University. And you will see that she has actually pointed out how different types of surface areas in a city contribute to the not the flooding but also the change in the riparian system, which is the edge of a river, and therefore they change the nitrate sink. So this is also very interesting. In rural areas, of course, this is an example of a watershed management technique, and this has had definitely shown various results like continuous contoured trenches, which help to retain the water longer than it would actually have been there. At the international level, I just wanted to point out that we are talking about monsoon resilience, but climate resilience is the buzzword. And here there is a project in Netherlands called Room for the River project, where they actually had removed a dike and made way for the water to flow through. So that prevented a lot of flooding that was happening. I mean, we can cite similar examples in Mumbai and surrounding cities, where such kind of reclamation has actually led to increase in the floodings and so on. And then we have the Big U project in Manhattan, which has created a whole network of softscapes for stormwater protection of the city, and different types of barriers, both natural barriers and mainly increasing the softscapes networks in the around the city. We have an example and many such examples around in India itself. These are the large lakes which actually act as holding ponds, holding lakes, and reduce the flooding incidences and protect the rest of the land. While at the same time, they actually lead to recharge of the groundwater and help in getting the groundwater into the wells and the bore wells. So in summary, I would say prevent excessive concretization in cities, planning based on natural drainage aligned with stormwater system, soil erosion prevention measures in villages, design and planning of drainage for existing and projected population, rainwater harvesting and decentralized water management practices, increasing vegetation and tree cover, and protection of buffer and riparian systems of rivers and water bodies. Thank you.
Thank you, Roshni, for educating us on various strategies for monsoon resilient buildings.